break up the team. Did you want the team to break up at that point, or did you think you guys were, going strong and that they should have kept AMW together?
Oh, I think it could have gone either way. At that time, it could always find more life with AMW. I never felt like that could go away. But with the idea of splitting us up, again, we go back to, well, okay, now it's another step in the business where we have to prove ourselves. And I guess maybe we just thought it was a natural progression. They only keep teams together for so long. We had a great run. When that was all going on, it was again one of those things where we knew we were going to feud. So it's like the opportunity that had been offered to us back in the day. We had another opportunity offered to us, and we were willing to go to any extreme to prove that we could both hang. And thank God we knew each other so well. We could get away with doing anything to each other, and we knew that whatever it took, we were going to take that next step.
You like kind of turning it up a notch too, because it became such a good blood feud. Obviously, a lot of brawls, a lot of stiff matches, cage matches, and so forth. Did you like kind of even turning up the dial a little bit more on that feud?
I have to admit to you, man, I did. Really did. I mean, we knew. I think everybody knew we could get in there and have some classic matches, but you split a team up like that, and you got to take it to the next level. You got to take it extreme, and so that's what we did. But the thing is about doing that is we still were focused on putting psychology into the matches. It wasn't just a free-for-all out there with weapons and whatever we could do. We still needed to put some psychology into those matches, and the way people talked about them, I mean, it kept people glued to it.
Was the, kind of like the matches of the night, you knew that when you guys had your feud that you guys were going to probably have the best match on the show. And, that's always great. But, the feud, I guess, it has to end, unfortunately, because you guys are having great matches, but unfortunately it has to end. But you did get in there in your singles run with a lot of great wrestlers, like the Kurt Angles of the world. Do you like, stepping in there and testing yourself against a guy like Kurt, who's, world-renowned, great athlete and terrific wrestler?
In my opinion, he's one of the greatest ever. And I mean that. I've always thought that. And then actually being in the ring with him, I could see he was. The next level for me was once Storm and I was done, they immediately put me in the world title match, King of the Mountain match, at Slammiversary, I think it was. I was in the ring, and I was starting to hang with the guys like Kurt, Samoa Joe. AJ was always in there. Kristen was there at the time. And it was a whole nother level for me, but I just needed to step it up. Needed to step up my game and be able to hang with those guys. And we had some great matches.
And of course, a cool little feud with Abyss, who you definitely had a bit of history with, which was great. Did you like working with Abyss? Because again, I mean, that's just you going into a completely different style because he's got a little bit of the hardcore background.
He loves it. Like you said, we've had history. I don't think people realize just how much history we have. And we broke into the business together, so I've probably wrestled him more times than anybody. But at this point in his career, yeah, you're right. He stepped it up. He was more into the hardcore. You got to prepare yourself for that. It didn't matter any kind of a gimmick match it was. I always enjoyed working with him. He was, in my opinion, he was always one of the best. Still is today.
An underrated worker as far as in ring and everything, but his hardcore style is also something great that he can portray out there. With TNA, as you're getting a good singles run. You obviously had a good little feud with Abyss, a little feud with Dustin Rhodes at one point. Then all of a sudden, kind of a shocker, the release comes. Were you surprised at all at your release, TNA?
Actually, I asked for it.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
Everything did seem to be going good on paper, I guess it was. I don't know if I felt like I was just starting to get lost in the shuffle, man. But it just came that time where there was some contact on the other side, and they acted as if they were very interested. And I kind of believed all the BS, and just the way things were going with TNA, that was a crossroad in my career because really had to think about what I wanted to do, what was good for me, what was a good position for me. And just one of those decisions where I thought, well, I'll never know if I don't try. So my contract was up, and I didn't re-sign, and WWE, made an offer, and I kind of jumped on it just to see what would happen.
And obviously, with the WWE, I want to get to that in a second, but I just got to give John a hell of a lot of credit for his TNA knowledge, because that was quite the history walk that we just went on back through the early days of TNA, and tip of the cap to the co-host on that one. But getting into
I'm impressed. I have to say I'm impressed.
that was very good. It was pretty damn good. But getting into the WWE at that point, not many people had left TNA and gone to WWE. I really could count on one hand the amount of guys that did jump in the reverse direction from TNA to WWE. And I recall that when you did jump, that it was a pretty big deal, because it had kind of been rumored around the time of your release that, yes, that's indeed where you were going. And I guess the first question would be, was what were your initial impressions of signing with WWE, and obviously with Vince and the whole structure they had going on there, because they were in the midst of a kind of a company change by adding that third brand of ECW and making that a focus of television.
Wasn't really sure what to expect. Right, it was during a time where you kind of have to test the waters. Even worse than that, the people that had made a jump, they never fared too well. So it was always a risky thing to do, because didn't know what to expect. The guys that had kind of been there, they didn't fare well, not by any fault of their own. It's just that's the way it worked out. So I wasn't sure how I could fall into the same trap. So they made a big deal about it when I first came in. As if it was all crap. So I remember talking to Hunter. I talked to Shawn Michaels, Undertaker. It seemed like my first early days there. It felt like it was going to go somewhere. They kept me off for a number of months. Weren't really doing anything with me at the time. There was no NXT. I feel like if there was, that could have made a big difference, because I would have had something to strive for in NXT. But there was no NXT. I wasn't really featured anywhere. Once it came time that they were ready to put me on TV, it just felt like it just fell so flat. They weren't putting any effort into it. To give you an example, Jones and I both went at the same time. We both at the same time, had our meetings at the same time. They view his character. They even went to his hometown in North Carolina and filmed him. Kind of, I don't know if you remember or not, but kind of using him as a from the streets kind of deal.
Right.
It was perfect for him, and Ron did an awesome job with that. It was really good for him. So by the time they debuted him, you knew and liked him. Simple name change to R-Truth. That's no big deal. He went out. He had the same music, which I understand doesn't happen. That would just happen to be his music. When they debuted me, nobody knew who. Well, they didn't know who Braden Walker was. I think some people would know who I was. They wanted a name change. I can deal with that. I knew that there was a good chance they were going to use Wildcat. But the way they presented me out there was just kind of like a bag of crap. There was nothing to give the people a reason to care. And some of these one-liners they were giving me in vignettes was just ridiculous. It was just a bad combination altogether, man. It's hard to find the words to describe what I saw there. I wasn't impressed. It was a $1 billion company that, they didn't know what the hell they were doing from 1 minute to the next. I remember doing a vignette and having to run to the ring, run to the grill position just to walk out. It was just done so unorganized, and it's hard to believe a company would be like that. But that was my experience. That's what I went through, and I always told myself, no matter what happened, no matter where I went, and I still say this today, even when I'm not full time in the business, like I would never put myself through anything like that. I am so glad that guys like AJ, Ron, I'm so glad they broke the mold. Now Samoa Joe's got a great spot. Bobby and Eric are there now. I'm just glad that the WWE has finally acknowledged the fact there is life before WWE. These guys were stars in other places in the world. And if you acknowledge that and just gets over so much better. Sorry if I was long-winded on
Oh,
that.
no, not at all. No, fascinated by it because it's not something we hear too much about at that time.
They didn't want to go with the draw. It was funny. A lot of people would wonder if they were watching TNA. The insiders that I talked to, that I was friends with, they would tell me that they watched TNA all the time. So I knew that they knew who I was. I knew that they knew who all these other guys were. They'd even asked me about it. I can remember one conversation I had where they asked me about AJ. And I put him over like $1 million. Now, whether AJ was looking to come at that point or not, that's completely up to him, his decision. But he knew who we were, and I think especially America's Most Wanted, they had to know who that was. But for some reason, they just did not want to acknowledge anything, and I think that they had that mentality where, I'm not saying they went out of their way to take it all away, but they certainly didn't put much effort into it either.
They absolutely did not. And that's a huge difference in almost 10 years that they put no emphasis on a lot of that stuff with the ECW brand that they were trying to build, which evolved into the NXT concept. But one can argue that, okay, in ECW at that time, they didn't know what they wanted to do with the brand, and they were kind of bringing new characters there, like you said, not really built up and just kind of letting them get over on TV. But with you were kind of cut from the bottom with some, like you said, not so, I would say, subpar writing. Maybe the creative wasn't what it would be. But when they hand you that kind of creative and they give you those lines, do you look at them and say, like, knock, knock, who's there? Braden Walker, and I'm going to beat your brains? You say in 2007, that's not really what WWE was going for. Is that something that you kind of went back at them at, or you just took it with what it was and try to do what you could with it?
I'd have been so much more comfortable if they would have just let me do my own thing. No, they're trying to put a vignette together, and they're like, here, say this, say that. You know, I also want to be a team player. You know, I don't. This is their company, and I got to do what I'm told. So yeah, they're the ones feeding me those lines, and I just said it. I knew when I was saying it that it was garbage. Then they take a look at it, they accept it, put it out there, and sure enough, it's just, you know, it's almost, it is. It's laughable. I mean, it's just ridiculous that these people put in these positions come up with something better than that. Either come up with something better or leave it to me. I had some experience doing interviews and promos. Let me do something like that. But you know that I couldn't really go in with that attitude. Didn't want them thinking I knew better than them. That was just the wrong way to go about it. So I did what they told me to do, and it was just a disaster from the start.
Is there somebody that you would go to, or somebody that would come to you and say, listen, obviously they're just dropping the ball, you know, every week with you, or they're not getting behind it the way they should? And is there somebody that could act as, you know, your voice if you didn't want to bring it up to somebody in management? Is there somebody that's coming to you and saying, hey, I wish I could do something for you, but unfortunately I'm kind of stuck myself?
Honestly, I didn't have a whole lot of what I would call close friends there. You kind of walk into it thinking that you do. I remember talking to a few of the guys, and they were, you know, telling me, come on over, you need to be over here. You know, they'll do this, they'll do that. Once you get there, it's almost like, you know, such a cutthroat business that, you know, they don't want to do anything to help you. So I will say some of the guys I thought were my friends, you know, didn't pan out. Some guys did. I have to send it to a few different people that really did try to help me out, but everybody's trying for themselves. I did go to some management, and I'm sure, I mean, I don't know how many times people have heard stories about John Laurinaitis, you know, just feeding you a bunch of crap. I mean, he seemed to be on my side at first, but I would go to him and kind of tell him what's going on, and you know, what about that? I threw ideas out. I had meetings with the writers. We had certain gimmicks going. We had certain ideas going to where I thought things were about to happen, but then I'd get there the next week and they'd say, "Now we're going a different direction." So it was, I treaded water. I didn't want to push too much. I also was finding out that unless you speak up, they're not going to do anything with you. So I would speak up to a point. Maybe I should have more. I'm not sure. It's hard to look back and say, well, what if I'd have done this? What if I'd have done that? I did what I thought I had to do at the time, and a disaster. And I'm not going to blame it all on them. You know, it's it's one of those things where, it was one of those things that just did not work out.
I'm going to take the other side of the coin, and I'm going to blame them 100% because it was subpar writing, it was lazy writing, and I think some of the people who were writing for ECW at that point have gone on to other positions within pro wrestling, and they haven't really done that much more to help the companies that they would move on to like they were doing in ECW. And when you talk about people might criticize aspects of the character or some of the dialogue, I think that the onus isn't on the performer. I think it's on the creative. And obviously, what came of Braden Walker was, a lot of kind of senseless internet, parody and people making fun of, the fact that a character that WWE tried to put over didn't get over, but not because of the performer. But is that something that you get frustrated with? Is that people take that and kind of mock it a little bit and say, well, this was so-and-so who was portraying the character, but really it was the company that did nothing with it?
I tried really hard not to let it get to me. They did such a great job. And I think for me, anybody that knows me knows how passionate I was and am about the business. At that time, with everything that was going on, with what I was dealing with at TV, I was dealing with a lot down in Florida. They had the training center down there. Just say they're master manipulators. They were great at making me hate business that I was so passionate about. I wanted out so bad. Couldn't even do indies after that because I just so messed up from being in that whole bowl. People are going to say what they want to say. People are going to say that, okay, that's, we thought Chris Harris was talented, but, that proved that he wasn't. Like yourselves, if you know a little bit more about the business, that most of it falls on creative. We're just kind of pawns in the business. And that's what I did. I went in with the mindset, I'll do what I'm told, and I'll, no matter what they give me, I will be able to make it work. And it proved to me that that's not necessarily true. That, if they're not on board with giving you a little something, it's not going to work out. So it's been a long time now, and enough people have heard me talk about it that I guess maybe they'll understand, coming from my point of view, how different it was than just walking in and clapping all over the fans and in that direction. But I've rebounded. I feel better about it. Like I said, I would never go back, but it is what it is. I gave it a shot. It didn't work out, and you just got to move on to the next chapter in my career.
Absolutely. And you mentioned just very briefly there that, that Florida Championship Wrestling and the training complex that they had, but obviously that evolved into NXT. And what do you think about NXT and how that did become that developmental hub that it is now? Because it's this absolute machine now of WWE creating their stars from literally step one. And did you see that possibly happening when you were kind of training at that FCW building?
No, it wasn't happening back then. They would bring guys up, but they also these are guys that they had molded. These are guys that they had trained. With somebody like me, I go in, being an outsider. They just didn't give me the same opportunities. I don't know how else to say it. It's just the way it was. I think what they've done, I will have to admit, I don't watch NXT. I can't hear enough great things about it. I think what they've done with it, whoever's in charge, whether it's Hunter or whoever's working down there, I think it's turned out to be such an amazing addition to the company. And like you were saying, they have a chance now to build people. So now, and I can tell you from experience on this, when I'm watching a program and they announce a name that I've never heard about, or they debut somebody that I've never seen before, the people know who they are. That's what makes the difference, is that they've given a chance to have a company down there in Florida. Well, I know they're traveling, but the company down there, they have their own TV exposure, and that's thankful to the network. It gets their name and face out there. Yeah, it's so much different now than it was back then. It just there was nothing to give the guys really an opportunity unless they wanted to, unless they, like I said, unless they were building it themselves. I mean, when I look around at the guys that were debuting at the time, they were guys that were kind of born from the WWE come up. Guys like me, an outsider, not so much.
Times have definitely changed, in the world of the WWE. But as I start to wind it down here, I was just very curious. With WWE and with the Braden Walker thing, have you ever seen those, those internet videos online that they made? It's kind of it's only, it's like a little bit of a joke, but they're talking about that time you met Matt Hardy backstage. And have you ever seen those videos of you? It's like almost like a little mini, I don't even know what, I guess a little mini Titantron for you.
Yeah, I did. I'm pretty sure I did. I'm sure there's more out there that I haven't seen, but I mean, all I can do is laugh about it. They put something together like that. I mean, what else are you going to do? I can't get pissed off. People are going to do what they want to do. They got their own minds. Yeah, I'm sure they're still out there. It's been years since I've seen anything like that, but hey, it is what it is, man.